rolling through the 2022 movies that I missed along the way. We are going through 6 movies now that came out in March of last year. We're going to talk about Fresh, The Outfit, Umma, Alice, Infinite Storm, and Moonshot right now. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my movie reviews from March of 2022. I know we're like a good year and a half past that by now, and maybe later if you're watching this well after the fact. But I want to try and, put the final touches here on my favorite movies from 2022. And to do that, I've got to roll through a handful that I missed along the way. So I want to do that month by month, and we're going to take it with these 6 movies here. A couple of nice things about me doing this so long after the fact is that most of these movies, if not all, are readily available on demand, on DVD, some of them on streamers. One of these 6 was originally from a streamer, and you can still find it there. Actually, I guess 2, because Moonshot was originally on HBO Max, and then they took it off the service like 3 months later, even before like the big Warner purge of some of the content. I don't know why, whatever, but it is available on demand. That's how I saw it. So you can still, rent all of these movies if they're not readily available on a streamer. But the other nice thing about these wrap-up videos is since they are a bit older, these movies, I'm not going to do the full 7, 8, 9-minute review that I give to my new release movies. We're going to just talk about them, very quickly. I'm going to give you the, synopsis. I'll give you some of my thoughts, give you my grade, and then we will move to the next. So about 4 to 5 minutes tops for each of these movies, and we'll move it along quickly. First, though, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We've got movie and TV reviews galore on the channel. I try to post something new just about every day for you, and I'm going to try and get these 2022 recap videos up one every week or so. So, within the next couple of months, we'll have wrapped those up. And then maybe we can start rolling into the 2023 early releases that I missed. Talk about January 2023 and February and so on from there. So we're just going to do these in order of release. And that means Fresh is first. This was a Hulu original movie. You can still find it there, but you can also get it on demand, or I think maybe on DVD too, if you do not have Hulu. Netflix really is the only streamer that is so tight with their movies that they don't usually put them out on any format or anything. It's Netflix or die, basically. But anyway, Fresh is a horror movie starring Sebastian Stan and Daisy Edgar Jones. Both of these names and faces you've certainly seen before. Sebastian Stan, part of the Marvel Universe, but more, I think, high profile for him last year was the miniseries Pam and Tommy, and then Edgar Jones was also in a miniseries recently called Under the Banner of Heaven. So she plays Noah, who meets this dude Steve, played by Sebastian Stan, at a grocery store, and she has been frustrated with the dating app universe, so she decides to take a chance and see what this guy's all about. So she gives him his number. He invites her to a romantic getaway weekend at a cabin, and she has, a few, questions about that, but she decides, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm in a bit of a rut here. What's the worst that could happen? And like I mentioned, this is a horror movie, so she sort of finds out what happens as we go along. This is a fun horror movie. I would not call it a horror comedy in the vein of like Violent Night or something like that. I think this is, pretty straight ahead, horror or maybe psychological thriller, you could say. And this is one of these movies that's kind of the less said about it, the better. The title, Fresh, may clue you in on a couple of the things that this dude Steve has in his mind or has in store for Noah as she goes to the cabin. But I think this is one of these movies where kind of the less you know going into it, the better. So I don't want to give any major plot spoilers there. I think this is a lot of fun. Sebastian Stan has come a long way, from the Bucky Barnes character. That's, I think, where I probably first saw him, or if not, when he first came into my my conscience. But he's played really a lot of different roles since then. I loved his version of Tommy Lee in Pam and Tommy. But he's really good here as this this guy that you want to see, in a romantic relationship. Oh, he seems so nice, and then we find out maybe not as all, what it seems at this cabin. And as we unfold the story a little bit more, definitely this is one of the creepier sort of horror movies of the year, because this is one of those where it's like it's not supernatural. This is sort of real world experiences. The scares, I think, are real here. There is just a hint of like dark humor. It reminds me maybe a little bit of The Menu, which was an excellent movie from 2022. I would say, that is more of a horror comedy probably than this, or maybe at least more of a satire overall than this is. And I don't want to give away any plot points in that. If you have not seen The Menu, that is a great film. This one is not quite up to that level. Very good, I would say, but not great. But Daisy Edgar Jones, good here as well. And the scares, the atmosphere. This was directed, by the way, by Mimi Cave, who I'm not familiar with. But I do think, atmosphere in a movie like this is very important, because you want to have that chilling presence. And this movie certainly does that. So I'm going to leave Fresh with a B plus. And we will move on from there. See, quick and easy. The Outfit is next, and this is currently not streaming anywhere. I believe when I watched it like a month or so ago, it was on maybe Prime Video or something. But as of this recording, it is currently not on any streamers. But you can still certainly find this, on demand and on DVD as well. It stars Mark Rylance, Zoe Deutsch, Dylan O'Brien from the Maze Runner movies, and many other people. But essentially, this is about an English tailor, played by Rylance in I think it's the 1970s, if I'm remembering that right. But he used to craft these suits on London's world famous Savile Row. He suffers a personal tragedy and ends up in Chicago operating a tailor shop there in a rough part of town, making beautiful clothes for those that can afford them, which AKA in Chicago means a family of vicious gangsters. So this is an action thriller drama. It's a few different things. And Mark Rylance has really come to be like one of my kind of, I don't want to say favorite actors, but every time he pops up in something, he's just so good in it. I'm sure I've seen him in so many things prior to the film I'm about to mention, but Bridge of Spies is the first time I really like took notice and was like, who is this dude? And he ended up winning an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for that role, and I thought maybe it should have gone to Sylvester Stallone for Rocky, or no, Creed, I guess. The character of Rocky, but I was happy Rylance won, because he was certainly one of the best parts of a really good movie in Bridge of Spies. There's another one to check out, but he's really great here. This movie really kind of hangs on his performance. It's a very like I don't know what you would call it, like closed in movie, in the sense that it takes place really in just a few rooms. It's one of these movies where there's not a lot of like sprawling set pieces, and no, this all really takes place in a very small space. And so what they end up doing with it is a lot of sort of character stuff, and there's some tense drama. There's also some twists. The script is very, very well done, I would say. I will say, on the negative end, and this movie, I don't think has too many negatives, but I do think it's maybe a little bit slow to get to the meat and potatoes of the story. It's a bit of world building, a bit of character building, which is okay, because the payoff is there. The payoff is good, but overall, maybe I would have liked to see this move a little bit quicker. And the other negative I have is Dylan O'Brien's performance. He's okay. He probably does better than I thought he was going to do. I have not seen him spread his acting wings as much as some of his other contemporaries, like the kid from We're the Millers, for example. You see him pop up now, and he's like a completely different person. Dylan O'Brien, he just does not quite have the menace thing down. He was good in The Maze Runner. Those movies weren't great, but he was okay in them. But look, he's, an MTV kid from Teen Wolf, or I think that was the show he came from. So toe to toe, with Rylance, didn't really do it for me. His Chicago accent was not really there, and when it was sort of scattered. So he was a weak part as well. But I really liked the action sequences. I liked the story of this. So this was definitely a good one. Where actually I mentioned that two of these six movies are on the good side of things. That's these first two. I leave The Outfit as well with a B plus. And again, we're just going in order of release, not necessarily in order of what's good and what's not good. But these first two are the best of the six for sure. All right, so next we're going to talk about Umma, and that's UMMA if you're looking for it. But this is another horror film, supernatural horror this time, and it is currently available for streaming on Netflix. It is not a Netflix original, but as of this recording, it is up on Netflix for you to watch. This film is about the character of Amanda, played by Sandra Oh. Have not really seen too much of her lately, although she did a Netflix program called The Chair a few years ago. But since leaving Grey's Anatomy, I don't know if we've seen her quite as much as I thought we were going to. But in any event, she is in this movie a single mother living with her daughter on this very isolated farmland. And she is being haunted by her mother's ghost. And that leads us to, many family problems and all of this. This, farm is no shortage of, creepy things going on. So this movie is the worst of the six that we're going to talk about. This is written and directed by Iris K. Shim, who I am completely unfamiliar with. And if this movie is any indication, maybe she needs to go back to film school or something. I don't know. But this is a 79-minute movie, and it feels so long because nothing really happens in it. The horror elements just are not there. We're trying every sort of horror cliche in the book, but none of them are even really that scary. And I will admit, okay, on the slightly positive side, there's not a ton of jump scares necessarily, but that's because there's hardly any scares in general. This is a lot of sort of talking with the daughter, and there's some mystery elements about what exactly is going on with the ghost and how the family relates to that and stuff. But and Sandra Oh's performance is fine. I mean, it's serviceable. I don't think we would expect anything less from her. She's, I guess, giving it her all, but I didn't even get chills from this movie. Nothing. Talk about the fresh, the atmosphere was very chilling, and went right along with it. Here, I think they were maybe thinking that just the plot elements would be enough to elicit fear, and chills and stuff, and it didn't do that for me at all. Now, maybe if I saw this on a big screen, I would feel slightly differently about it instead of watching it for the first time on Netflix on an iPad size thing, but I still understood what I was supposed to be watching, and it wasn't good. Sandra Oh's performance maybe is the best thing about this movie, but this is a sure miss for me. The worst of these six. I leave Umma with a D. All right, next we are going to talk about Alice, and this is currently on Stars. If you have that channel or that app, you can check this one out. This was written and directed, another writer/director, and this one is a first for this person. So we're getting a lot of new blood here. Kristen Verlinden. This is her directorial debut. It features Kiki Palmer, Johnny Lee Miller, Common, and Alicia Witt, among others. And this is about this gal, Alice, who is played by Kiki Palmer, who I love. She's one of my favorite people on this earth, and that dates back to this great movie called Akilah and the Bee. But, everything she does, I'm all in on. This one, not so much. And it's not really her fault necessarily. I feel like she's trying here. Her and Common are both really giving it the old college try. But essentially the plot here is that Alice is enslaved on a plantation in Georgia, like an antebellum type of thing, and Johnny Lee Miller plays her slave owner, and she attempts to escape and runs through this big forest and emerges on a Georgia highway in 1973, and that's where she meets the common character Frank, who's a truck driver trying to help her adjust to the time period, and she realizes that you know what really was going on with the slavery and everything. And this movie so much wanted to have a point that it was driving home and a purpose beyond just kind of saying like slavery's bad. Like, yeah, we definitely know that. But unfortunately, it all gets lost in the sauce because the movie is so confusing. They never explain why uh she goes to the 70s, why she her one of her goals is to take Frank back to her era where they can teach everybody, oh, slavery sucks, everybody, let's revolt and all of that sort of stuff. But like, it's never explained how that even would work. And it's also not explained at all why she's just so like whatever about everything she sees. Oh, that's a car. Okay, cool. Like, telephones, awesome. We didn't have those where I am, but I get it. I know how it works immediately. I understand. Like, it seemed like there was a big chunk of this movie like missing or something, because it did not connect at all with what was going on. And there was another movie called Antebellum, actually, a couple of years ago that was just horrible. I gave that one an F. This one is not that bad, but it had some similar like processes of like an antebellum plantation worker slave, in more modern day kind of thing. That was like reverse. I think in that one she lived. That was Janelle Monáe, another person who I love in a not very good movie. But she lived in like the 70s or 80s or whatever it was, and then somehow she found herself back in the antebellum South. It was such a bad movie. I kind of forget how that happened, but whatever. But here they never explain so many things about what's going on. And as such, I just was never invested in what was going on. And there's, obviously a lot of movies, especially lately, about, this sort of horrible, horrible era in our society, in our world. And I see kind of pieces of maybe what they were trying to go for here, but it just did not work because narratively it just wasn't connected at all. Some okay performances from Keke Palmer and Common. I mean, everybody's okay. Johnny Lee Miller makes a good slave owner. I hate saying that, but he was fine in the role. You did hate him, but there's just almost no reason for this movie to exist, other than to say slavery is horrible. We know that already. We need more to the story than that. So I leave Alice with a D plus. All right, next we will move into The Infinite Storm, and this is Naomi Watts. It's really almost a solo performance. It's one of these movies where she really is carrying it. She's in, I would say, every scene of the film. There's very, very few people in this movie with her, but she is. And this is based on a true story, by the way. She's a very experienced climber ascending Mount Washington, but she decides to turn back before she reaches the summit because a huge blizzard is coming. On her way down, she encounters this stranded man by himself, played by Billy Howley or Howell. And she takes it upon herself to sort of save both of them and get both of them down the mountain before nightfall arrives. And there's some on location shots here that were fairly harrowing. But here's another movie where it was just kind of boring to watch. Like, it's unfortunate because I do like movies like this, survivalist movies. Like the movie Everest was really good, and in fact Naomi Watts is the star of I think, one of the greatest survival movies, of the last 20 years, called The Impossible. That's a very young Tom Holland as one of her sons, and Ewan McGregor is in that as well. See, not only are we, we reviewing the March 2022 movies, but I'm giving you recommendations for other movies, possibly better movies, to check out here too. But anyway, so she already sort of did like the peak disaster movie, in my opinion. No pun intended with the word peak. But this one, I just didn't connect with either of the two characters. I didn't necessarily care about the guy because there's not much to that character. There is some intrigue because we don't really know anything about him and all of that, and because it is based on a true story. There is a little bit of like a okay, it's maybe a little tense. There's some things going on, but for whatever reason, I just did not quite connect with the characters. And I think in a movie like this, yeah, you can kind of put yourself in their shoes, but I feel like I also want to connect with, their motivations and all of this kind of stuff. And in the movie Everest, I did exactly that. This one just fell flat for me in that regard. And look, Naomi Watts gave us a good performance here, as she again always does. A lot of these people are people that I really enjoy watching on the screen, um but this was just not different enough from so many other survival stories. There's another great one, last year, and this is not mountain climbing or anything, but called The Fall. These two girls, they're sort of thrill seekers. They go up on this big tower, and I think that was a 2022 movie, so that will appear on my year end list as well whenever I finally make that. But yeah, this for me was just a swing and a miss, and they tried, but it did not work for me. And who directed this one? Margaraza Sumauza. I've never heard of that person. I don't know if they've done anything I would know, but it's a woman, and I am not seeing anything. She's done like, 5 or 6 movies. Never heard of any of them. So I guess very, very small independent movies. Looks like she wrote all of them herself as well. She does not write this one, but in any event, yeah, not one of the better ones. More of the middling variety for this month. I will leave Infinite Storm with a C minus. All right, and then finally we get to Moonshot. And like I said, this was originally an HBO Max, exclusive, but for whatever reason, they took it down a few months after releasing it, and now you can get it on demand. But this is a science fiction romantic teen comedy, I guess we could say. It stars Cole Sprouse and Lana Condor, from the To All the Boys series. And this basically follows these two crazy kids, these college students, joining forces in order to be reunited with their significant others. But is that future on Mars? Mars is, terraformed and being colonized by the best that humanity has to offer. Lana Condor plays the very smart one that was supposed to be on this mission, and Cole Sprouse is a kid sort of stowing away on the ship. Zach Braff has kind of a minor role as well. His character is sort of superfluous, really. He didn't show up for a while. He was only in a couple of scenes, and it could have been anybody. It didn't have to be somebody famous, because it plays into the plot a bit, but like it's just such a nothing sort of character. But in any event, I do think these two kids have pretty decent chemistry together. I like Lana Condor a lot. I didn't know her before the To All the Boys series, but I've liked her in everything I've seen since. I feel like I just saw her in something recently as well that I reviewed. And then Cole Sprouse, of course, we've been watching him since he was a kid. With Big Daddy and playing Ben on Friends and all of that. But the two of them do, I think, have pretty decent chemistry together. There are obviously the other people on the ship that they are dating at the beginning of the movie. But, look, it's a teen rom-com. I think we may be able to figure out what's going on in this movie. But look, it's got a few, minor laughs, and certainly some interesting things. I don't know why it's called Moonshot when they're going to Mars. That part doesn't quite make sense to me, but whatever. I don't grade movies based on their bizarre titles, I suppose. But this is, you can put this one like in the okay category. I think for the right crowd, which is not necessarily me, but I would say, teenage probably girls more than anything, are going to enjoy this. But look, I think this is a cutesy rom-com movie. It is light on the sci-fi. You know, if you're looking for something with a little more depth in that regard, I don't think you'll find that here. But you know, for the rom-com part, the teen romance part, I think it will scratch that itch for some people. I will leave Moonshot with a B minus. All right, so that's it. You know, 6 movies in less than a half hour. So I told you we'd knock these out pretty quickly. Next up, we're going to do April, obviously, and we'll go from there. Not every month, I think, is going to have a standalone video either. Most will, but there's a few months that there's only like 2 or 3 movies I kind of were interested in, was interested in watching. So might combine a couple of them. But in any event, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.